When I was a child, my favorite subject was geography. My geography teacher, Mrs. Owusu-Darko, in the secondary school I attended right here in Accra, was a passionate teacher. She taught us about rivers, about mountains, about countries and its people. Now, she also taught us about explorers such as Marco Polo, Vasco da Gama, and Christopher Columbus. I was hooked. I decided that, just like Marco Polo, when I grow up, I want to explore new lands. Unfortunately for me, I was born in the 1970s, where there were no more lands to be discovered. But I didn't give up. I was curious to know how people lived in other countries, what foods they ate, and to also enjoy nature. So 9 years ago, I began this odyssey. Now, when I started traveling around the world, I realized that my interests had expanded. I wasn't only keen in seeing spectacular architecture like the Sydney Opera House, or visiting historical sites like the pyramids of Giza in Egypt, or enjoying nature, but I was keen in understanding how nations are built, how nations develop. I wanted to know how a small country like Singapore, being a third world, could be transformed into a first world. I wanted to understand how a country like Japan could rise up out of the ashes after the Second World War. This quest to date has taken me to 100 cities in 62 countries. Now, very recently, we've been hearing the term Africa is rising. A part of me wants to believe in this new buzz phrase of Africa rising. However, after visiting 20 countries in Africa, the questions I keep asking are, if Africa is truly rising, why would acquiring a simple document like a passport be such a hassle? If Africa is truly rising, why is corruption on the rise? Now, according to Transparency International's 2015 Corruption Perception Index, 40 countries out of the 46 countries in sub-Saharan Africa have corruption as a major challenge. If Africa is truly rising, why are many of our cities and countries characterized by chaos, dysfunction, and disorder? If Africa is really rising, why are 650 million Africans without electricity? If Africa is truly rising, why are power cuts, aka Dumso, in 25 African countries? Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa, Zambia, Malawi, just to name a few. Now, I read a report by the African Development Bank, which said that the total power capacity installed on the entire continent of Africa is 147 megawatts. And that is an equivalent to the power installed in one country, Belgium. Can we say Africa is rising? If Africa is really rising, why are our cities littered with rubbish? WHO and UNICEF in 2015 published a progress report on how the world is achieving its Millennium Development Goals. Now, in that report, only 3 African countries, Tunisia, Morocco, and Egypt, were on target for their Millennium Development Goals on sanitation. Is Africa really rising? Now, I've been privileged to visit countries such as Namibia and Rwanda, countries that give me a glimmer of hope. But one thing I have come to realize is that unless every individual in all the 54 countries in Africa rallies around, Africa will still lag behind. Now, in my books and on my blog, I share stories of my trips around the world, but I also talk about plausible solutions of how we can make Africa rise. Now, to a large extent, I understand that our challenges are twofold. We've had mismanagement, bad leadership, the absence of rule of law, corruption. However, I know that there are things you and I can do to make our continent rise. And today, I'm just going to share 8 of those. Number 1, let's move away from tribalism. Let's move away from political divisions. If you are employing anyone, employ them based on their knowledge, their competence, and their skill. Don't employ them because of their party colors or because of the tribe that they belong. Number 2, let's see the grand vision, the big picture of what our nations can truly become. Let's move away from short-term thinking. Understand that if you do a shoddy job today, the next generation will be affected. Number 3, let's make learning a priority. Our homes should have libraries. Let's learn. Let's share knowledge. Let's focus on learning. Personal development should be our individual focus. Number 4, you can stop corruption. Yes, you truly can. Don't give a bribe. And don't ask for one either. Don't solicit for a bribe directly or indirectly. Phrases such as, Oga, something for water today. Boss, what do you have for me? Bossu, the weather is hot. Or boss, today is Friday. These phrases should be a thing of the past. Number 5, let's take responsibility for our actions. Let's not blame superstition and negative forces for every mishap. Let's take ownership and responsibility for our actions. Number 6, let's stop littering. Let's stop littering. Because you know what? Littering our cities not only makes us sick, but littering drives tourists away. I have made a personal pledge never to litter. And under some circumstances, I would have to put the rubbish in my handbag and dispose of it when I find a bin. But yes, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Let's stop littering. Number 7, let's respect time. Let's be punctual to work. Let's value time. Our weddings, funeral, and social engagements should not be full-day events. When we have a program, let's start and finish on time. Let's go to church on time as well as to our mosques. Let's be on time. Number 8, let's use our brains and stop relegating, everything to religion. Let's understand that God gave us brains. Brains to solve the problems we are facing as a people. Let's use them. Let's make God proud by employing our brains. Now today, I entreat you, I entreat every African in all the 54 countries on our continent. I entreat every African in the diaspora. Let's get involved in developing our countries. Together, you and I can make Africa rise. Thank you.